Okay.
main. That'll give a live view of us.
There we go.
See.
All right. So tonight is the February board. We get 4 people. Okay. I was trying to make sure we had enough here. We've got a quorum. Call the meeting to order. Let's have Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, first item is going to be the last month's minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes that Doug sent out?
I read them.
Anybody got any questions or concerns on the minutes? We will stand for approval of the minutes then. I don't think we have to vote for those, do we, on the minutes on this?
No, you just need consensus that everybody's accepting them.
Everybody's accepting the minutes. Okay. So we'll pass the minutes, and then we're going to open the floor. Do we need this a public hearing, right?
So you have to close
yeah.
the normal business meeting and then open a public hearing. So my suggestion would be to open the rezone hearing first, because then you're going to have to close that one and reopen another public hearing for the other one.
So we're going to do the first public hearing for the Lane property, or do you want to do the other one
It's
first?
up to you. That's my suggestion.
Okay.
You can do
We'll
it.
do it. No, I just you
were
wrote it
running
down.
the show.
Yeah, that's the problem. All right, so we're going to close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing for the development on Iowa Street, between Iowa and Pennsylvania for Dwayne Lane. This is for a rezone to R2, if I remember right. R3, I'm sorry, from R2.
It was R2, or it is R2 now. We
Going
want it
to
to be R3.
to allow for the doubles. So I'm going to open the floor for questions and comments. Does anybody have any? We do have, if you want one, it's a layout of the what they're proposing.
I think I've gotten one.
Okay,
No,
this
you
one's
haven't
different.
gotten-
This is a new one.
Yeah, you haven't gotten this
Yeah,
one.
they're gonna. So the original proposal was to have access off of Pennsylvania Street, and some conversations with Doug and myself, and I had a conversation with Dwayne. There's an alley there, and Deb. Yes, I'm sorry, Deb. To the north of that property. We are making the recommendation that he turn that in. That Dwayne put that into as a 1-lane road going east, and they access off of that. That way we have a traffic flow pattern back up Pennsylvania. It creates a couple helpful issues for us. It allows us access for fire protection, fire equipment if they have to. It gives us another way in and out. The other thing is we don't have to work on some kind of turnaround down there for fire protection now.
Right.
So it kind of facilitated a couple things. It also helped us with some setbacks and some lot balance on the property itself.
Yeah, it changes the dimensions of the two lots from a 49 by 127 foot to a more of a 64 and a half to a 98. So it gives him the ability to put those doubles in that lot with a little bit more of a border setback away from. The square footage didn't change, but just by switching that to a north facing double, it gave what looks like on the drawing a much better orientation and presentation for those
Cindy, you might
doubles.
want one of these.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Very important.
We got any questions or concerns? You agree that the layout looks a little better? Is that, I think that will help facilitate a lot of things.
Yeah,
Um,
We'll have to go through the process of making that alley into a legal street.
uh-huh,
And it's not wide enough to be a legal two-way street, cause you need 20 feet for that. But
Right.
it's wide enough for a one-way street.
uh-huh.
So we'll just have to go through process of going to the, highway department, or would it be the county highway department that would,
No, it'd be
Certified
your
alley.
It
own.
would be the town.
The town
It's
is just
town
a,
alley.
that's a
so
town.
there's somebody at the state that has to say, we recognize this as a street also, I
You
believe.
report that to the state.
You just report it though.
Right.
Okay.
You get approval.
I know there was
Like,
problems
vacating it.
for probably 15 years. We never advised the state that we had all the streetage, this linear feet of street in Gilbert Woods. So they weren't,
That, they weren't funding us for the linear
Right.
footage. Yeah, that was
So,
the biggest thing.
we
there.
don't wanna mess that.
We don't wanna mess the linear footage. We wanna make sure we report that in our linear footage of our streets, yes,
Right.
yes.
Then the next question on that is, since you're developing that, you're covering the cost of paving and all that for that, I would assume, or is it
Yes,
the town?
Yes.
And I'm just, again, yes, yes.
Okay, because I know
When
we
we were
talked about
looking
it.
at that, we were thinking about paving, and so the question I've got is, and again, we've kinda got a different dynamic with some of the stuff that we're doing here, so, when we've done the other stuff here, we've done the paving in the base, and not curbs and that kind of stuff, so I'm assuming that will just be a regular, base and blacktop through there, yes.
You know, I don't see a reason to have a sidewalk, can't have a sidewalk in front. Unless you wanna put a sidewalk in front of every time in your driveway.
We've been putting sidewalks in, and I don't know how that'll look there, we'll have to look at it, because I'm assuming we'd have to tie in with that house, the house up front somehow on Iowa Street. Cause then it'd be a sidewalk to nowhere if we didn't.
Right.
But we do have sidewalks on Iowa Street, we do have, sidewalks on Pennsylvania Street, Tennessee Street. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but we didn't have sidewalks on Delmar Lane.
Okay.
Probably just because you didn't have the room by the time you put them in, you have very small yard maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't see a reason that you would need it there, but I was just curious. Because I know we had discussed if we extended Pennsylvania Street originally, you were gonna cover that as far as the construction, so we were still on that.
Right, we know we were gonna go all the way to the
The end of the property.
Ron's property.
Okay. There's no question I guess.
And then how would that affect the house up front with their vehicle parking and all that?
That's a great question.
I'm wondering, I really honestly think if you was gonna run sidewalk, I'd run it down only towards Pennsylvania and connect it at the ones on Pennsylvania. I don't think I would run it west.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
you
I'm
don't have the room
assuming that we'll
because
do
of the
that in
house.
the plot plan, but right now, the parking on, the house, up there, it's got it's got a attached garage on it.
Yeah.
They do park in that alley, but, there's also parking behind the house.
Is it paved?
It's not paved now. It would be, but if we bring that street all the way through that alley from Iowa to Pennsylvania, then where the alley is would be, paved.
I'm just wondering if we would need an extra pad behind the house for them to park on so that they're not parking in that alley.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
In the
there's
future.
actually parking in front of the garage, and then there's also
Oh.
parking, I'm gonna say between the alley and that garage, there's actually quite a bit of gravel space there, I don't know exactly how much.
Yeah, I've been back there.
So, that's what, when the state police's wife was here earlier, that's what she was talking about, is behind that house there. I stopped there because there was a Cadillac and something else there, thinking, who moved into this house, because I didn't know anybody moved into this house. And I knew Eric was moving in there, he was still in, Florida, because I talked to him a couple days before that, and he said, told me when he was coming up, so I stopped there. There was nobody there, there was two cars there, and I assumed that somebody just parked there because they and just using it for extra parking space at this point, if it's safe.
It could be, because I've noticed that at the other units, when they have company over, they're parking anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Which would, that's everybody's problem in the town, but
there's no real good street parking down that area.
there's no good street parking in the town. That's just like, you gotta deal with it.
I do have one comment, if I may.
Sure.
I was looking at the, current town zoning map, that was part of the staff packet, and, the area to the immediate north of this, is a very similar project, right away.
Right.
And it's zoned R three, even though
Right.
the town map doesn't reflect
I
that.
assumed
It
that.
is zoned R three, and this next would just be the next property south of that, or the natural extension.
I was just going by what I was given.
Understood.
Yeah, I don't know why that hadn't changed, but that we rezoned that
Yeah.
prior to that project, yes.
Yeah, that also, on that same map, Ben didn't make note of, but the original layout of the ground when I bought it is still on this map instead of the way that it is now, but I mean, that doesn't change anything.
Right.
Does it, if you're looking at it? But we'll definitely make sure that there's no issues with parking down there, it's something that we always do.
I don't think you have a problem with your double parking. And the people, I've been to that house, it's like a big, gravel parking lot, so. I don't see any, they probably have the most out of all the houses you would have, right?
I've actually discovered in Clayton, it's a very popular thing to park in alleys.
Cause nobody used them for years. Nobody used them for years.
Yeah, nobody-
There was a lot
nobody-
of them had to be vacated.
You know, that one there, and the one that Justin lives in, you know, where Justin lives on the next street over, he parks in the alley too.
A lot of these alleys seem to get, they were vacated, not vacated, but they were just there and,
So like, both of these are the same way, the alley literally is only used for a driveway, and so the rest of the alley going on the east is all grass.
It's all
And
grass.
Same way with the other one, there's Justin, you know, they're grass.
It's just like the alley behind your old building or old building. I thought you used that until you guys put that doubles in there and started using it, so.
I actually spray that, and again, that's kind of a.
I spray it too.
So, I did go down and spray that, cause it was very, cause it was looking pretty gnarly, so, you know what I'm saying, you mow right up to it, and there's 2 foot tall weeds.
No, I weed eat that and spray it. It kept raining this spring, so it got a little fall there for a minute, and I got it all cut down and killed. Cause I sprayed it once, we did sprayed it, and then we got nothing but rain for like 2 months. So there's no way I could spray anything and it sprouted back up.
Yeah, the weed spray was crazy this year.
Yes.
if we don't have any more comment, or questions, we'll, close the hearing and.
Okay.
So we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to, a motion, if someone would like to make a motion on.
I'll make the motion to approve the zone change.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of the, motion to approve the development from R2 to R3, can I hear ayes?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. So I guess we'll move on to the next, which is a zoning variance. No, we don't do that one,
Well, you did the rezone.
but we have to do a variance to do the doubles into the,
That's the BZ.
That's the BZA.
okay, sorry.
So we have to do that
That's
next month.
next month, sorry, I'm ahead of this.
Sorry.
So,
Now that's
we'll go back to the public hearing for the
for the
UDO.
UDO.
So, we'll close the regular meeting, open the meeting, or the public hearing for the UDO for acceptance of the UDO. Have we got any questions or comments? All right, we'll close.
Well,
Okay,
there's about a 30-second delay with the
Oh.
virtual audience, so
so
give
give it a
them
minute.
a chance to
Sure.
type in if they want to.
Well, we do have 7 viewers, don't we? Yes. They do have to log in though to do that, right?
Yes, they have to be logged in,
Mm.
and
Currently, you're the only one. That I'm sure.
well, I'm the only one who's commented so far.
Oh, okay.
There are
Thank you,
other
Dwayne.
people who have commented in the past. Roy Hewitt frequently comments on these, but I don't see his. I don't see that he's logged in anymore right now, but. Okay, that's probably enough time to have allowed for comments.
Okay, if there's no further comments or questions on the UDO, we're gonna close the public hearing and reopen the meeting for the proposals on the review the proposal for the adopting the UDO. Do I have a motion on the floor to adopt the UDO?
I'll first.
Okay. You know, when I'm watching the videos, I can't hear you at all. You're
That's
so
what I was
quiet.
telling, well,
I'm gonna move that mic closer to you.
no, that's what I was
Make you
telling
hold
Rob
on to it.
after watching the last town meeting.
You can
There was
walk
a-
around.
Well, there was a couple of things, I'm glad you brought that up, 'cause I was going to.
Well, hold on, we're not done
Let's
with
get
making a
this
motion.
done. We got a
So,
motion,
do
we're
we
in the
have a
middle of a motion
second?
here. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the UDO as proposed. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
So now,
Now, back to regular business.
well, I
Well,
mean, now you have to take that to the town council.
Right, on
So
Thursday.
on Thursday the 11th, we present to the town council that the UDO has been adopted, and then they have to hold
a
a
public.
public hearing and then adopt it. So,
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Sorry,
that's all right.
I'm not as prepared. So once we've got this, so that's the 11th. So we really, for this, we're done. And we just move on to regular, our business from last month, or anything we had on last month. Do we need to? I mean, if I'm missing something here, tell me. Well, we're
About?
done with that. We're done with the UDO for now till we get to the town council meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Although I
You
don't,
wanna consider the proposed rules and procedures in the application packets, and they stop with the plan commission, cause you approve your own rules
Okay.
and packets, the council doesn't have to sign off on them.
Okay. Yeah, we can go through that. I had notes from the last meeting and things I wanted to go back over, and I have to apologize. I didn't get as far along with things I did because my dad got sick and then he passed away, and so we
sorry
had
to hear
we
that.
had a rough December, January, and yeah. So he had 28 days in the hospital and 3 days at home, then back in the hospital, and it was a mess. But
Sorry to hear that.
it was. I just had those notes for it.
I do know that we'll need to update the dates of your meetings to the first Tuesday of every month, if it's not already in those packets.
in the application packet, it mentions the meeting dates.
I think, yeah, cause we plan them out for the year,
Okay.
so folks can, if they're gonna file a petition, they can kinda plan ahead.
So this meeting will always be on Tuesdays now.
Is-
That's what I understand.
Is that application packet included someplace in the UDO, like an appendix, or?
It's not the UDO, it's gonna be a totally separate document, it should have been in like one of the back tabs of the 3-ring binder that we had. But if it's something we need to wait till next week or next month and look at again, that's fine, I can update it if need be.
Yeah, that's something.
And that's just the documents and the fee schedule and
Right.
those things.
And we had talked about.
And I know we've talked about that
I think we ever.
in December, when George was still here, we talked about that, and we talked about going forward with that. So,
We had a pretty good discussion back with Dan over signage about fees, because there was questions, I think it was you or Leanne that brought up when we were talking about different various fees.
right,
That's all I can remember, and it's a subject that you remember discussing.
yeah, that was in like October,
Mhm.
We got all our fees in before he left.
right.
No, not for you.
No,
like,
not for you.
Specifically you, it was just, when he.
We were talking
You
about,
had put together, I believe, the fee schedule that the county charges and what the town, if they charged a fee for a
I
permit.
think that's
or
something
something.
Dan did. I think I
Okay.
gave him the
Okay.
packets with blanks
I think
for
you
him
were-
to fill
I
in.
can't remember if you were there for that.
I don't
meeting.
think I was,
no,
not
I don't think she was. No.
Yeah, that was paperwork he had with him at the time.
Okay.
So do we wanna take some time and go through that packet so everybody can have a chance to look at it, or do
Yeah,
we
we're
wanna?
gonna need to do that.
Yeah, so we'll schedule that into March's meeting. Um, fee schedule. And forms.
Is that something that has been sent to everybody by an email, or did Dan just
I
hand those
think
to
Dan
us?
just had it there and was showing to us. He didn't really, he may have sent one email, but it
Just
was.
something, yeah.
He sent a pretty good sized one to all of us, I do remember that.
He sent several, but there was one.
If you
We
find
talked
it
a
and
little
can
bit
forward
about
it to me, that would be helpful.
Revised PC application packets. Yeah, this last email, we finally got the end email from December from 12/2 from him when he was talking about him leaving and all that stuff, so. Shoot,
Yeah, that's what I was trying, yeah. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Forward revised BZA and application packets. It come out on the December 2nd is what I've got.
It looks like you sent it to him.
Could be. I know he had asked for some
Yes.
changes and,
Yeah, do you loser?
yep,
Loser.
Luzier, it looks like loser,
No,
but
I didn't.
I'm used to that.
You're talking about Cascade graduate, we don't pronounce it right. We know how to get stuff done, but we.
Well, the maiden name was Van Dam, and I'd
Oh,
rather have,
goodness.
I'd rather have Luzier than move up the alphabet a little bit.
Yeah, he sent it to you first on the 1st of December,
Okay,
and then he sent it to the rest of us.
gotcha. So
Afterwards.
then I should have the most recent files.
Yeah.
That was one I just skipped over.
Yeah, it has a Word document that's the Clayton BZA application, and then a Word document that's Clayton PC application.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And then he also included the Penner rezone and the Ohio special exemption PDFs, but
Ah,
so all
okay.
those are all in the same email for attachments.
Okay, so we'll schedule that for next month. and we'll go through that. So things we need to start working on, we need to go through a comprehensive plan at some point and start on that. We talked about that last month, and I'd hoped to have been more prepared for that, like I said, so I will try to pull that comprehensive plan this month. Maybe we can lay out some maps and charts, so we've got some idea of what, have some visual representation of what that looks like. And I have not reached out to the county planning board member yet. I will talk to him this month, hopefully. And we're gonna talk about city water opportunities. And let's see. Oh, Mike Wallen, we was gonna talk about Mike and the development around the lake a little bit, if I could get a hold of Mike. Nick has been working on kind of an annexation pros and cons list. We'll try to have something firmed up, so maybe we can get some people involved before spring.
If you guys wanna see it, I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
I just kinda
you're welcome.
jotted some notes down, you're welcome to look
That'd be
at it.
great, yeah.
You know, somebody's got something they wanna add to that as far as, so we can maybe get some of these larger landowners involved and see if we can't get some.
Well, even smaller guys too, just because if you just own the house,
Yeah,
then what does it benefit them? You know,
yeah.
so if we
Right.
did, I don't know, I wrote down what I was kinda envisioning, cause I think it's easier for me to do that than explain.
Yeah.
Can you
But-
text it to us?
Yeah.
Or
If nothing else, we might
You
get.
read my scribbles, I'll just hand it to you.
Well, we can take
Yeah,
a
right.
picture, or
I
maybe,
didn't have time to copy, I was gonna copy it this evening, but
That's okay.
due to the nature of my work, I got someone else in here, and was late for the first meeting.
Thank you.
If you'd like, sometime between now and the next meeting, you and I can get together. I will jot down the story you gave us last month of all the processes you tried to go through to get your business set up with the county and the headaches you had, and then how when you transitioned to trying to put your business here in the corporate limits of Clayton, how all that red tape disappeared. And we can put that together in just a short paragraph and have that attached to this as, here's a testimonial of a business owner. I'd like to do the same for Cindy, cause she had the same problems with the county of, there's a lot more red tape there.
There's just a lot more hands
So,
in
yeah.
the problem, I'm sure. You've been around, but.
Well, it's a larger jurisdiction, they've got
Yeah.
lots to keep track of.
Well, part of the problem is too, is they look at, because it's a large jurisdiction, they'll look at, say, Styles, which is now, that doesn't control their own zoning, or, you know, something like that, Belleville or whatever, for instance, and they'll try to treat it as a big area, like, I don't know, land right outside of Danville, that they're putting Walmart or something on, you know. It's not necessarily bad, but I don't think you need all the trees and shrubs and mounds and stuff when there's no other trees or shrubs around.
Sure. Well, and I'm happy to help with that comprehensive plan process anyway, or
Yeah.
provide any guidance. So
Yeah.
just let me know. But I think it's totally doable in-house.
Yeah, I was just thinking if, cause when we had that first meeting before all this shut down and wonderful last year, it was just something that, I noticed that people, we didn't have a good, as a group, didn't have a good answer for some of the homeowners that had, why would I wanna do that?
Yeah.
So, I didn't, you know, all that kinda got tabled when we quit having the meetings and stuff,
about annexation as
Yes.
well. I have
Yeah.
reached out to AIM, the Advancement of Indiana Municipalities Group, and asked them if they had any materials to, what would you give a community who wanted to promote annexation to maybe some adjacent property owners? They said they did not, but they're very interested in drafting something, so I may be helping them, with that, outside of working for you guys, cause it seems like a good idea that communities would want that.
Well, I think it is, I mean, if you just tell somebody you wanna pull them into a town and it changes, Clayton didn't change their tax basis much, if I remember correctly, it was really in its own.
Farm ground, it changes nothing, but what it can affect is if they have existing buildings on that property.
Yes.
Right.
That's where it drastically does change, and that's the biggest thing for people like Bob Brenneman and that have, a fairly large piece of, real estate. I mean, there's about 5 acres of buildings and stuff there that could
Well-
impact him to some degree. Is it huge? No, but it's still an impact.
Well, and then there's zoning that they have to consider too, like, he's a big farm, right, and that lady was just talking about burning, and, there's two contradictory, deals on the books. If we annex a big farm like that, he's gotta be able to cut his brush and burn all that to get rid of it, so we have to be able to, put him at ease if he has a question, or somebody else has a question, about one of the zoning that you have to.
And that's pretty typical when you're taking in farmland like that you allow them to continue doing what they're currently doing. But at the same time, you may want it zoned for, let's say, commercial, that's where you wanna grow commercially, so then you can do both things at once until a new use takes over.
Well,
Can we, that's a good question. You brought something up so the ground is currently agricultural use. If we change the zoning to commercial, but it's still an agricultural use, it doesn't affect the tax base, or does it affect the
That I
tax?
don't know,
Okay,
I'm not
Well, I
a
know that
tax
Dan was
person.
talking about the state law where it can't, cause that was his biggest thing was state law says if it's farm ground or whatever, the current zoning can't change.
Right,
during
See, and that's-
annexation.
see,
Zoning
that's-
does
Period.
not affect taxing, I know
Right.
that, it's what it's used for, the land is used for,
but the zoning dictates the use.
but it's
Right.
not
I know
used
you
for
can do
that
an
until
overlay.
the
When I-
user comes in.
When I first moved to Plainfield, I had to go up to the assessor's office for something related to the property, and in front of me was a farmer from just outside of Clayton here, who he owns the land, but he doesn't farm it. He rents it to another farmer. And so the county changed his zoning from agriculture to commercial because he was
Renting.
renting his property to somebody. So he was there to try and get it back because he said his taxes shot up. Because agricultural land has a limit to, regardless of what your appraised value is, there's a certain number that the state law says, here's the maximum amount of taxed appraised value you can assess to a farm. The state legislature passed that many years ago to promote all the farming land to keep their taxes lower. And so when the county changed it to commercial, that negated that, and suddenly his taxes shot up. And he said, we're still using it for agricultural, I just don't farm it myself. So he was there to try and get it back to agriculture. And
My understanding is in the databases where they keep track of the taxing is there's 2 fields, one is zoning and one is land use. The taxing is based on the actual land use at the time. The zoning itself wouldn't have any impact on that. Because let's say you have a downtown building here it's a residential house, but it's zoned I3 industrial or something. They're not taxed as an industrial use, they're taxed as a residential use. Now, if somebody comes in and changes it to an industrial use, then that new land use affects the zoning.
Well, I know you can do the overlay, you can do residential with an overlay commercial, cause that's what the county did in 140.
Yeah, you can do that
All the way
too.
through the whole county line, that way, if a developer wanted to come into properties right on US 40, it was already overlaid and they didn't have to go through all the rezoning process and all that,
Yeah.
so it could be changed.
So I don't know what situation that farmer was in, but unless he had some other business going on the property.
Yeah, I don't know, I was
Should
trying not to eavesdrop too much, but it was kind of piqued
Yeah.
my interest of this poor guy had, you know, the county changed his zoning on him, which they can do, the county can do that, the municipalities can't, but a county can.
No, well, they have to go through the process, through the plan commission and then.
Right, but they can do it without the property owner's permission,
Yes, they
whereas the
can.
municipality,
You can
according to
do it too.
state law, we can't change zoning
You
without the,
can initiate it, the plan commission or the town council can initiate a rezoning without the property owner's permission. Do I advocate that? Totally not.
well, cause that was one of the things that, was discussed specifically with, Mr. Brenneman. He didn't want the city to, Clayton, to be able to change his zoning if he got annexed in. He said, I don't want you just changing my, zoning on me without talking to me first. And-
Sure, you could, but
No, on
Well,
farm ground we
because state-
can't.
'cause that's state
They
law,
just
that's
passed
why-
that law that the farm ground can't be changed without the landowners under annexation. If we annex him in, we cannot change his zoning without his written permission.
oh.
Yes.
That was
That
just,
was
that
Dan-
was,
Cause
yes.
that was Dan's biggest deal, he just, he go, well, you can't do it state law, and it's like, okay, we get it, but you have to say it.
That was in the
Just because
20
it's state law doesn't make Mr.
Well,
Redmond,
I know that you
the farmer
can't,
feel comfortable.
you can't keep him from farming,
No,
but
we
you
can't
You
change,
change it
we
from
can-
farming to, or
right,
agricultural
because the,
to
somebody else
anything
was here,
without written
Baker and
permission.
Tilly. Weren't the two gentlemen from Baker and Tilly here at that meeting?
Yeah, I
Yes.
believe so.
And they were also reiterating that.
okay, I'll have to look that up because that's a new one on me.
But the other thing was, we said, well, even if the state law were to change back to allow us, we, as the town of Clayton, we wanted to make some sort of, you know, statement that we weren't going to do that, we weren't gonna be that type of a,
And
of
would
a
that-
town.
Would that have to be an addendum that's
Yes.
put in writing?
Yes.
I think that's a very
Yeah,
good
see-
idea, that will allay a lot of fears.
Right.
This
Let's
is a
just
farming
Say, we're not
community.
going to,
Right.
you know, come after your property and, you know,
I guarantee people wanna see
11:59
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
night, change your zoning all of a
Right.
sudden, and then you wake up the next morning and go,
Some of that
where's
land-
this?
Right, that's been in their
Right.
families probably generations, so.
Well, that's what I suggested to Mr. Brennan about it, was even though it's state law, like, cause Dan kept repeating state law, okay, that to the average person, it doesn't matter, because we all know that just whenever the state decides to change it or something, they do what they want.
They do.
Like they're
Um,
doing right now.
yes.
Yes, so, I told him, suggested to him to talk with his lawyer, whoever was helping him, family, whatever, to come up with a list of things that, even if it was a state law, put it in there, put it in the paragraph, I will annex with X, Y, Z, do you guys agree to it, and then that way he has a piece of paper he can hold on to.
Absolutely.
So when we're not here, because there's gonna be a time where none of us are sitting up here, or none of the council members are the same, he still has that, and he can come to them and go, this is what you guys agreed to,
Yeah,
and not just go, well, it was state law.
So if he sells that property to a developer, then what? Are
Then,
they
that,
confined?
at that point, it becomes a different,
Right.
a different deal. Because the developer could, you know,
Or he could be the developer, he could choose to develop and change zoning, he could approach the town, but the town can't
okay,
change his zoning.
but as
or
long
his
as it's
use.
under agricultural use,
Right,
we cannot change his zoning without his written permission. It had something to do with the 2019 right to farm law. Farm Bureau did a big article on it in one of their papers, but they were pushing that hard because there were several farmers in outlying areas around metropolitan places that were being annexed or were being rezoned by the stroke of a pen. And it was frustrating them, and it got to a state level real quick.
not familiar with that. I'm familiar with the right to farm, which means they can continue doing what they're doing regardless of
Right.
zoning annexation. But my knowledge is when it's annexed, the town can assign a zoning district, but still allow them to keep doing what they're doing.
Right, but this was a change to that, if I understand right, this was a change to that law that they could not change that zoning. If it was agricultural, they could not change that zoning to anything else without the farm owner's written
Okay,
permission.
I'll do some research on that tomorrow and try and pull that statute.
But I know Baker and Tilly, they actually had the law cited and everything that
Okay.
night.
And so if that's the case, could I make a suggestion that that be comprised into a single page document that we can then upload to the website and say, for every farmer considering or worrying or has a concern with annexation, here is your document that proves nothing will ever change that.
No, I know what you're saying, but their all concern is at the stroke of a pen at the legislature, it'll change again.
Right.
And they don't want that. So if we agree to that it doesn't, that we won't change that.
Right, that's what I
We're
mean,
gonna-
could
yeah.
we upload a one?
Yeah.
It would have to be
Because if it's a
agreed.
concise one-page document, I guarantee they're gonna like it a lot better, just having worked with seniors for 15 years. That was my previous field. If
I
you
think
have
what would be comfortable with them, because I have a little bit of background about how things can get changed if you don't really read the fine print. If it was on his, I'm sure there's some sort of agreement they sign when you get annexed or something, if they, or got a legal document signed by the town and by them, town lawyer, town council, whoever, that states I'm annexing, but, and it was.
There's an
all-
affidavit that they sign
right.
if it's gonna be a voluntary or super voluntary annexation. The property owner signs an affidavit saying, I'm voluntarily allowing the town to annex it.
Yeah, and they could put under, and these conditions also apply, even though it's state law, they reiterate that, or we could add, like, if he wants to, I need to be able to burn my brush, or I need to be able to, I own all this farm ground, I allow people to hunt my farm ground, they can shoot firearms. That was a
Right,
big
I didn't even
concern
think
at
of
that
that.
last meeting,
You're right.
um,
Yeah.
which I know we don't have a well, unless it got, I know you had talked about making the motion to a noise ordinance, because we can enforce a noise ordinance, not.
We don't have a noise ordinance in Clayton yet. We've talked about passing one. We do have an ordinance that says no firearms should be discharged in the corporate limits.
Yeah, but see, if I remember from previous conversations, it was like a year or so ago or more, that, that was hard to enforce. You had to physically see someone doing it. Whereas a noise ordinance you could enforce if it was over so many decibels.
Well, the town marshal said, I would never enforce this ordinance because if they were using a firearm incorrectly, I would arrest them under whatever, state
Right.
statutes, XYZ, dangerous, actions with a firearm. He wouldn't, the town marshal is saying, no prosecutor is gonna worry about that Clayton has a no firearms ordinance. They're going to, if they're, handling a firearm in a dangerous way, there are other statutes that they would go after them on.
Right.
That
I
was
remember
all the town marshal said was, this is, in his mind, a worthless ordinance because it would never be the thing that the police officers use to go after a citizen who's
Right,
discharging a firearm in a haphazard or dangerous manner.
right. But if you annex farm ground, then they have to comply to that was the thing, technically. Because it is a on books type deal. So if you had all that farm ground, if that's still a concern with those citizens that were concerned about that being annexed, then that would have to be addressed at that time. Because I remember we were talking a little bit about that because it was brought up.
Well, the reason it was brought up is because the guy that originally owned the house down here,
Yeah, Mopar Paul.
Mopar Bob, but he no longer lives there anymore, so.
You know, but see, he also had he had enough land to discharge firearms safely too.
Right.
So the new owner, if we approach them and they're an advocate of discharging a firearm on the property in a safe manner, that's something we're gonna have to think about. Because it will be brought, I would assume it will be brought up like it was last time. As a, pretty hot button thing.
Which I was surprised when I was researching that Clayton's not the only town here in Hendricks County with an ordinance like that about no firearms. Danville has one, I mean, what were Coatesville? I mean, there were several.
Standard.
Huh?
It's pretty standard.
Yeah, so there were lots of little towns like us that were like no firearms should be discharged inside the town limits. So, and I'm guessing Danville must have an exemption for their police shooting range because isn't that inside of Danville's town limits?
I don't know. I'm not
Yes, it
familiar
is.
with it.
It's right there
Because
by
it's
the waste
it's
management.
because it's all part of WMX's property, and that's all within the town limits. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that they got an exception for that because they go out there and do their practice target
Well, and there
shooting.
used to be a shooting range at the conservation club that was inside the city limits.
Oh, okay.
In there behind it's kind of behind the
The water park,
water park. Yeah.
I shot there. I
Yeah.
did firearms training there as a kid. But no, I remember that was one of the big things. And I completely understand, because who wouldn't want to shoot the firearms if they can safely discharge them? That would be a big no for me if I was that landowner. If I had that house down there and the town was saying, we're gonna do this, and that's something that I did, as a recreation quite often.
Which I agree with Leanne. She had an idea a couple months ago with the town council of we need to go through all of our whole ordinance book and just get rid of some of the noise that's in there and really make it an easy to understand ordinance section on what can and can't go on in the town. I mean, we have an ordinance that says you can't park in these first two spots on Kentucky Street longer than an hour at a time. Because there used to be that liquor store, and that was kind of the idea was people needed to be able to park there to shop, but then move on. And now people park there that live in the apartments and stuff, and they're there all day and all night. So it's just a matter of do we really need that? And one of the ordinance doesn't make sense at all. It's like you can't have a daycare or a CPA business in your home.
That's silly.
I know, right? I'm like,
Oh, that's really silly.
who puts together an ordinance like that? You can't be a CPA and work out of your home in our town, according to this one ordinance. And I'm
Somebody
like,
did something.
I'm
Somebody did something.
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Somebody.
That's exactly right.
Somebody
Somebody
made-
was mad at
Somebody
somebody.
pissed, you did my taxes wrong. I'm gonna write an ordinance. Stop your business. I don't know. I don't know where those kinds of things come from, but when I read through all of those things on American legal publishing for our
Yeah.
town, I'm just like, I get a headache going, where did this come from? And like I said earlier, there are two different ordinances that mention burning. And one says if you're burning wood products like debris, trim, tree limbs, that kind of stuff, and then you're fine. But the other one says absolutely no burning at all.
Huh.
See, I think it's.
And I don't know, but they're two different ordinances that conflict with each other.
Right.
So.
So yeah, it probably does need cleaned up, but that's at the town council level, correct?
Right, yeah, that's for the, it's a lot to chew on, so we have to start slowly, I guess, I don't know.
Page at a time. Go through the red ink and just.
But then you did bring up a thing with that ordinance. I was just curious because I know we had discussed it at one of the meetings about and Dan had sent us an email about the town can enforce their own parking rules for the parking spaces here on 39
Yeah.
to limit those parking to an hour instead of people parking all day long.
I mean,
Is
it's
that
gotten better.
But I mean, is that something, because anybody that even goes into any business along that street, whether it's the businesses that rent your property or the businesses that say if the cafe was there still and they park there.
Well, it's not all the parking spots,
No.
it's those first two, that's weird.
Well,
It's
I'm
just-
just saying,
Yeah.
I know that Dan had reached out to the state and state said we were in charge of that because it was in town as far as if we want to put time limit or something.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the state
Yeah, we
took
can-
one away, remember, they took one away, it's
Mhm.
yellow zone now. Because people.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Iowa Street, I'm talking about
Oh.
Kentucky, in front of what used to be the liquor store on the corner.
I gotcha.
Remember where that
Yes,
was
because
at?
they were parking over in our
Yeah.
parking lot for a while.
I just
So-
didn't know if that was something that we needed to look into, or to advise the town to maybe put 1 hour parking signs up, or 2 hour parking signs, something like that.
I will tell you, they have no other place to park, those apartments, because they were parking in our parking lot for 2 years.
I
Were
guess,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
the way-
finally put a note on the one young girl's car, I said, you're welcome to park here, I just hope your landlord is not charging you a fee for it, because he was trying to get us to give him part of our parking lot. And we wouldn't agree to it, so then he wanted to pay for it, but have his renters pay for it. And we kept trying to explain that we didn't wanna give any of that up, but we didn't mind if they parked there occasionally. But they couldn't be in the way of the semis that come and drop off the molds. And I honestly am not sure if he was charging them or not, but there was someone who parked for a good solid 3 months every single day, all day, and then a second car started, and I thought, I'm gonna let him know, if he's charging them, he doesn't have a right to, because we're giving you permission, but there's not to be any fee incurred, and so, then they never parked there again after I put the note on the car.
Well, see, that doesn't have to be for every single parking space.
Yeah.
If the town wanted to agree, save those parking spaces. Because I'm personally, I think that the parking is on the landlord or the
Yes.
landowner.
Yes, sir,
I have to
agree.
provide parking for my business. You
Yes,
have
sir,
to-
I agree. He
Now
should-
granted, the parking spaces are in front of you, but if you needed more parking, you know, cause you're putting in a big shopping center, you need to buy the ground around you to make a parking lot. But being that those parking spaces are in front of the business there, or like in front of the cafe or the appliance guy, if you put the 1 hour parking signs there, but maybe the town was lenient and said the first 3 parking spaces
Yeah.
where the rental houses are for residents only, then that would solve, they would have their place to park still, and it wouldn't affect them with the 1 hour, 2 hour parking. But for the business owners, where the parking spaces are their business, they could have customers. I mean, sound like you do, I mean, I don't know if we do
Well,
that,
yeah,
or maybe
no,
suggest
I
that,
don't-
but.
I don't think there's necessarily a planning commission,
Yeah, I didn't know.
thing, the issue to tackle. I think that's more of a town council issue.
Okay. So if I have, so we're gonna look at, annexation for next month. Pros and cons, testimonies, for something to put out. Development plan, or the, I wanna say development plan, that's not the right word.
Fee schedule,
No, well, we have the fee schedule to review, UDO fee schedule, or building and planning fee scheduling forms.
talking about the book, to go through the book.
Well, we've already done the book, this is just a fee scheduling form. We can look at that and then,
Updating the plan.
yeah, oh, that plan, what do we call that?
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan, that's the word I was looking for.
Sorry.
No, that's, no, you,
I knew what
I
you meant, and
I
was
could
like-
not, I could not come up with that comprehensive, so. Plan, review. And that's, that should be in all our books that we can go through and look at it and get some, and I'll try to get some stuff together for that.
That's really just a matter of going through updating the demographics chapter, going through all your current goals and objectives and saying, have we done this? Yes, no, in process.
Okay.
And then what do we want to add to it?
Yeah, 'cause it's changed, I mean, just if you look at it, it's had some changes in the last,
Do you think we're ready to put out the survey to the residents for the comprehensive plan update? I can post it on Facebook and our town website.
I mean, there's no reason that, you could post it because there's no reason not to have it. I mean, if we're not, when you say not ready for it, I guess to me, that information, whether, no matter where we're at in the process, if we're early, we've got the information ahead of time. If we're late, Yeah, I don't, it's better than being late,
Okay.
and in my opinion, so I don't think that's an issue unless anybody else has got any other comment.
Just be sure to document where you posted it and what feedback you got back, so
Right.
you'll be fine.
You said you're gonna do that on Facebook and
The town
the
website.
town webpage.
And that would be a good thing to put on the new sign, is something that says, make sure to go see, we're wanting to have this,
Sure. Yeah, another way to redirect people to the Facebook page or the website for the survey.
yeah,
Put it on our marquee.
town
out here.
survey, make sure you go to
Yeah.
this website or whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't know, that does look nice.
It's yeah, they
I
do.
like how you I think I arched it, so people could see. Was wondering how they were gonna do that, make a solid bottom base or arch.
They did a good job,
Yes.
which is very nice considering how much we spent for that.
They're not cheap, I've looked at them.
No, they're not cheap. But, and the software is fun to play with. There's billions and billions of different things you can do with the marquee. So
How do
it's,
you guys dim your light? I really hadn't paid attention at night, I'm too busy going after work.
it is not set up to dim yet. There is a feature to allow us to do
As long as it's
that.
not white, my suggestion, cause I've seen it on 75 with Coatesville sign, or even the, libraries, if it's a white background at night, you need to get that thing dimmed, it will blind, you can
Yeah.
get a suntan off of it at night if it's solid
Yeah,
white.
'cause we leave here every night. We're here all weekend, every day we leave here. Yeah, I agree.
I was kind of surprised. I can actually see the marquee changing from my front porch.
Wow.
Really?
I didn't think I would be able to see it, but there's just that right between this house and the business, and
Oh,
it's kind of, so I'm like, oh, look at there, the sign's working. I can't read it from my front porch.
But you can see it change, yeah.
I can see it.
That's pretty
Does
good.
it have spell check built in? Just curious.
No,
No?
it does not.
I was always curious about that.
You can type whatever you want in there and it'll accept it, so we have to be careful.
How about making the ends backwards or not? It always makes them the right way, or? That's
I
always-
mean, it'll put whatever you type in there, so if you decide to switch the keyboard to Russian, it'll type your, what's the Russian alphabet called, something, I don't know, anyway.
I just
Yeah.
mean like on some of the reader boards where you put the slide in letters, they always put the N the wrong way, and it drives me nuts.
Right, when I was in high school, I worked at a movie theater, and my job was every Thursday night, I had to go change the marquee out on the main street. And so I had to pile all the letters in my car and drive over to the sign, and then, yeah, if
That's
I
a
was,
job.
and it was after closing on Thursday, so I'm up there at midnight,
Oh,
and when I would get down on the ground, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I misspelled it, or whatever, so I'd have to climb back up there, redo it and stuff, but this one, you don't have to worry about that necessarily, other than,
Good.
the nice thing is that it sets it up where you can preview it on the computer before sending it to the sign.
Nice.
So you can watch it and see, oh, that looks really stupid, or,
Okay, has anybody got anything else? Alright, we'll close the meeting and we'll meet next month, March 2nd.